Testing. We're good to go, Rizzo. Okay, on today's podcast, Nelson Twins, thank you ever so much for joining us today. Obviously, we've got Mazza there as my co-host, and like always, he loves the fame, so he's always coming into these podcasts. Nelson Twins, Justin and Chris, right?
Correct. Ali, how are you, mate? Are you awake? That was the most subdued introduction to a podcast. Right, let's start again. Can we cut that? Ali, I know it's Friday afternoon.
I'm bugging.
Okay.
It's been a long week.
Let's start again. Okay,
right.
We're going to count you in. You ready?
This is Tahir done the same thing to me. yeah, man. It's like I've never introduced a comedian, man.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, action.
On today's podcast, we have the Nelson Twins.
Ali, you are full of beans for a Friday afternoon, mate. This is amazing. I thought you'd be tired after a week at
I got
work,
so
but no,
much of the
look
Red
at you.
Bulls have been kicking in. Look, my question, I always have an icebreaker question, and my question to the both of you are going to be, how's it feel living with someone or being around someone that looks exactly the same?
It's funny you ask that. People assume that we live together. We don't. People assume we live in the same house, in the same room, in a set of bunk beds. Yeah. We're 40 years old. We live in different states.
Wow.
Yeah.
We live in different... Even that's too close. I'm thinking about immigrating.
Yeah. I'm in Queensland. Justin's in Victoria. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, so we don't actually live in the same house.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. We've got our own families, Ali.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Both married.
Yeah. Well, I'm not married.
Not
so...
She hasn't said yes yet. She will. Yeah.
She will. Yeah.
And also, Ali, I think you're going to miss the most important point that Justin and I used to be your school teachers.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you could address us as sir throughout the podcast.
And I just want to say congratulations to you, Ali, as well, because if you had told me 15 years ago at school that you were going to be
the Wolf of Wall Street,
the Wolf of Wall Street, working for a company that's on the stock exchange, I would have thought you were talking
Especially
garbage.
from that school?
From that school,
From that particular school?
But I've got to ask you as well, what happened? Where did you go? Because you were at school one day and then all of a sudden you were just gone. We thought you'd gone to juvie, but you obviously went on and got an education.
I was thinking about joining my friends in juvie, but my dad showed me the light.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, everything just... I was in my completely own world.
Very quiet kid, Muzz. Very quiet kid.
Are you guys playing me? Do you guys actually remember
I don't
me?
think so.
Yeah.
He doesn't strike me as being somebody who'd be overly quiet in a classroom. He seems like the troublemaker, the gang leader.
At that school, I was quiet.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, no, quiet, baby face. You've still got the baby face.
I still have the baby face.
Yeah.
If I cut the beard,
yeah,
I was like 12.
You were about as quiet as your introduction.
Yeah. And you've cut the beard. Now, speaking of beards... we've got the two Muslim gentlemen here, and we've got the best beard.
Oh, shame on us.
Yeah.
Is that halal, Mazza?
Oh, we're going to really have a good hard look at ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't think it's even possible for us to grow it that long.
Would you be
How
allowed
long
to
did
be?
it take
Probably
to grow
is.
that?
17 years.
17 years. Does it grow anymore? Or do you guys trim it?
Trim it.
Give it a bit of a trim. And do you know the secret to a good beard?
Oil.
No, laziness. People always say to us, it must take so much effort to keep your beard that long. It's like, no, it takes absolutely none.
You don't do anything.
Yeah.
A little trim every now and then.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Is it the same? Do you guys try to keep it the same length?
We do.
Keep everything the same.
So you just text each other on WhatsApp and be like, hey, this is my beard.
We stand in front of the mirror, sometimes together at the barber, and we say, right, you've got to level it up. My hair grows quicker than yours. You've got a bit more grey. There are a few little differences.
You can probably pick up on that. So, do you know what causes grey hair?
Marriage?
Yeah, well, stress.
But he's getting married.
Yeah.
No,
it's stress. It's because I've been looking after a baby for the last 4 years.
So now that you said, I'm assuming you're older.
Oh, I'm older, yes.
You're older.
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Yep.
7
Wow.
minutes.
That's how much more grey hair you have in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
This is what he's going to look like in 7 minutes.
Yeah. We'll just change throughout the podcast.
Speaking of differences, how do we see the difference? What is the difference between the both of you?
I hate to admit it. I've got a bigger nose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to.
because
Mars was like, yeah, that's a beauty.
No. Obviously, in the preparation, right? We do our research and whatnot. And I was looking at the image of the two of you standing side by side. I'm like, how do I pick these guys? That's the first thing I noticed. I said, the nose. The nose is a wee bit different. I'm like, okay,
It's funny how no one ever brings it up. They wait for one of us to mention it.
Yeah.
Because they think it's going to be rude.
It's
But
good
you
for
have
life.
got a fat nose.
I have got a fat nose, but there are a few differences. Justin's a vegan.
Really?
No, since when?
2 years. 2 years
Why'd
ago.
you take
How's
that
that
route?
going?
I just wanted to see how much healthier I could get than Chris.
How's that going?
Yeah, it's going pretty
But
well.
you have
Oh, good.
more.
I tell people I got a pet vegan. Just a loser on a diet.
So you have more white hairs. How's
How's the vegan
Yeah,
working?
that's why.
I'll be honest with you, I just need some meat.
Absolutely. Speaking of sort of background and research or whatnot, obviously before a podcast like this, you do our research. I looked up, in your presentations in the past and what you talk about where you're from in Australia, a town called, what's it called?
Walbunderie.
Walbunderie. Now, Walbunderie, I had no idea where that was. So Google it up on Google Maps and you're like, okay, well, it's between sort of Albury and Wagga Wagga, right? Somewhere out there. When you run the search on Google Maps, I don't know, obviously, because you're from there, you probably never run this search. But when you run on Google Maps, what's the thumbnail image for Walbunderie?
What's the thumbnail image for Walbunderie?
You Google up any place. Obviously, an image always pops up. Okay, whether it's an office building,
An empty
a house.
paddock?
Nope. You know what it is? Nope.
A rock.
Nope.
There's a picture of them.
Nope.
Picture
It's something so random you won't even guess. It is a graveyard.
A graveyard.
A graveyard.
Well,
Now
that describes our childhood.
Yeah. There isn't a lot in Walbunderie. So I don't even know where the graveyard was.
Is there a graveyard there?
that shocked me. I was like, it's a cemetery,
Yeah.
and that's the thumbnail image. Okay.
Yeah, well,
Coffs Harbour's got the big banana.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Walbunderie's got the big graveyard. Yeah. What a selling point for tourism.
Daniel Andrews, take note, man. So, okay, there's a graveyard there. It seems like a depressing place. Well, I don't know, right?
It was.
is.
It was a really, really strange place to grow up, wasn't it?
It was, but it was so different for us too, because we're 40, nearly 41. So we grew up out in the middle of nowhere. There was no internet. We didn't really come to Melbourne. We went on holidays twice up until the age of 16. Mum took us to her friend's place at Frankston. That was, hey kids, Christmas holidays. Where we going, Mum? We're going to my friend Denise's house in Frankston. Oh, man. Yeah. But also, too, we didn't have any knowledge of other cultures, and because we went to a high school in a place called Culcan, half an hour down the road from Walbunderie. There were 600 kids. 599 of them were white kids off the farm. There was one Greek kid whose parents owned the fish and chip shop. And it wasn't until we come to Fawkner, moved to Melbourne, I suppose I was 25, and that's when I kind of realised there was a big world out there and that I just didn't know existed.
And when we moved to Walbunderie, we lived in a tin shed. So our old man was a bit of a hippie, and he had this grand idea that he was going to build a house. But for the first 6 months of living in Walbunderie, we were going to live in this shed that he decked out. And when I say decked out, it had no floor, it had no fans, no air.
Corrugated iron.
Yeah, we had a brown snake in there once.
Really?
Yeah, but it was only going to be for 6 months, right? And then 4 years later, we're still living in the shed.
Yeah. Dad backed himself in as a builder, but he was a nurse.
After 4 years, the only thing that resembled a house was two pegs with a string line in between.
Yeah.
So it was,
How's the house going, Dad? Yeah, I'm getting there.
The thing is, because you're both comedians, like, are they joking or are they being serious right now?
No, this is all serious.
Serious.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so how did both of you just wake up one day and be like, okay, we're going to be comedians?
That's how you do comedy too, is you take things that happen in your life and sure, you can expand on it.
Yeah.
And, but those things that we're talking about, the childhood Walbunderie, that's all real.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a conscious decision that we were just going to do stand-up one day. We started thinking about stand-up. I have this vivid memory of being 7 years old, and we're staying at our grandparents' house, and we spent a lot of time at our grandparents' house, probably more than most people. For some reason, Mum and Dad would drop us off at our grandparents', and before Nan could get the biscuits down, we could see the smoke coming off their tyres as they left us there for weeks on end. But there was an Australian comedian called Rodney Rood. I don't know if you remember Rodney Rood. And anyway, there was a cassette that belonged to my uncle that was lying around at my nan's house, and Chris and I used to listen to it flat out. And that's where we, I think, started the love for stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Was
And then
listening
Billy
to-
Connolly as well. And we're giving away our age, but we listened to tapes. Yeah,
Wow.
so this is before DVDs. I can remember borrowing my uncle's Walkman and,
Oh, yeah.
and putting a tape in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Walkman.
And we'd sneak it at night. So our nan and grandfather had put us into bed, and then we'd sneak the Walkman and play the comedy cassettes. Yeah, and that's where we
Yeah.
got our love for comedy. And then when you were 16, I reckon you started writing some things down, and it was probably your decision that you wanted to.
That was more therapy of coping with you, the things that I wrote down.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how we fell into it, but I was going to go to London and live. Justin and I are school teachers, and I had my visa stamped in my passport. I was in around Albury Wodonga, and I said to Justin, I'm going to London, I'm going to teach for a couple of years. And Justin said, oh, well, maybe we should tick the bucket list off and do a gig or two gigs before you go. And so I come to Melbourne as a bit of a stop on my way to London. We did a couple of gigs, and you just get that adrenaline buzz. And I never went. I never went to London, and here we are.
Well, was teaching always the plan? Was it always the chosen career? And why?
Believe it or not, I actually finished my degree before Justin and started teaching, and then he copied me, which seems to have been a theme throughout my entire life.
The same school, same everything.
Yeah. This look was mine first. Seriously, man, get your own shtick, all right?
Being identical twins as you are, how does it work in terms of thought processes and whatnot? Can you read each other's minds? Do you finish each other's sentences? How does that work?
Well, we don't always finish,
Each other's sentences.
but sometimes
We do.
I don't think there's any magical superpowers to it. It's just that we spend a lot of time together.
And we
so
have a good understanding of each other.
So
Yeah.
can you guys read each other's minds?
Well, I know that Chris is going to pick that drink up and have a sip in about 2 seconds.
How did you know that?
So if we say, okay, look, on the count of 3, you guys are gonna say a color. Would it be the same color?
I don't know. Let's
Can we
test
give
it
it,
out.
can we give it a shot?
Let's test it out.
On a count of 3?
Yeah.
All right, we'll go for it. 1, 2, 3.
Blue.
Nah, man.
No way.
You guys must have like an understanding just in case this happens.
All right, we do have superpowers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
You've busted us.
Yeah, okay. Look, this is probably worth a bit of money. So, look, if you're interested in our superpowers, give Ali a call.
Yeah. No, it's
fair
just,
enough.
I guess we're wearing semi-blue shirts. We've got blue jackets here. I don't know. I guess that was what was in my mind.
Yeah, that was in my mind too.
Yeah.
you
The
go.
football team we played for was navy blue, and I was half thinking you might say navy blue, and then I just kind of made the call that blue.
So this wasn't pre-planned. It was
No.
just genuine.
Wow.
No, it's just how it works. But yeah, we just know each other well, which helps when you're on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. But early on, it was hard because you've got to learn the timing and to not cut each other off. So I feel like I don't know, it's always a work in progress, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah, you've got a lot of improvement to do.
I've got a great mentor though. Thanks. mate.
Oh, mate, my pleasure. Yeah.
Now, other than looking similar, do you guys think the personalities are the same?
Personalities are different. Yeah, they're very different. I think I'm more of a leader, more of an inspiration. And Justin's a follower.
Yeah.
Justin's the brown noser. Yeah. The bum kisser, the yes man.
Yeah. I'm also the organizer. You may have realised that, Ali.
I didn't even know we were doing this podcast until yesterday.
Yeah.
You serious?
Yeah.
I just organise everything.
Yeah. When Justin said 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, drive through peak hour traffic, I said, thanks, mate. Yeah. There is nothing more that I would rather do. Yeah.
Absolutely. On the theme of thinking alike and whatnot, because you spent your entire lives together, quite literally. How does it feel when, let's say, for example, Chris, yourself, you get married, you have a life of your own, you have a spouse of your own, and whatnot. Do you feel jealous that he's not exclusively yours anymore?
No,
do you feel clingy at all?
The exact opposite.
The opposite?
The
Never been
exact
like that.
opposite. Yeah, I've felt like I've sort of hand passed the burden to someone else. So when Chris said he was getting married, I was like high-fiving myself. This is brilliant.
No longer my headache. Buzz off.
Yeah, we've done some twin stuff, TV shows, different twin studies and whatever, and we find there are a lot of twins who just can't handle being apart from each other, but we've always liked to have our own space.
And I think even more so since we've started working together. So I don't know, how do you find it, Ali, with your dad? Do you find that you get sick of each other and you need a break?
I think it's okay. Like, I don't mind working with Dad.
Yeah.
That's not what he was saying when we were
In fact, he left the building.
But the thing is, like, work, when you're at work, like, it's not really personal. Sometimes you create that personal touch, because when you're with Dad at work, it's always work, and that Dad element like disappears.
Yeah.
And you only have that Dad element in the weekend, but it always ends up being about work.
Yeah.
So it's okay. Yeah. I don't mind it.
And do you still live at home?
No,
No.
I'm married, moved out.
Yeah.
Oh, you're married?
Yeah, with a baby, 10-month-old.
Oh, nice. I keep forgetting that you're not this 13-year-old kid that goes to John Ford College anymore.
No, those days are gone, man.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone from their school anymore. I'm like, I'm in my own world.
Yeah. Now, did you have those glasses back at high school?
I couldn't afford it back then. Couldn't afford it back then. So, coming back to, let's say, when you guys were young, have any of you got belted up by your parents and they're just mistaken for
No,
the wrong twin?
No, the reason being that our mum and our dad, they know us so well. And prior to the days of call recognition on your mobile phone, mum and dad could tell who was ringing, couldn't they?
Were you talking about getting belted up or recognition?
But they always knew who we were, even by our voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
when we're on the
they'll
phone,
always belt the right
they
twin.
always belted the right twin.
Yeah. That's what I thought you asked. Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah, but I copped it more though.
Yeah. So
Justin
I never,
was the goody two shoes.
Yeah, I never copped hiding on your behalf.
No,
that's what I was saying. Yeah, our parents knew us so
impressive.
well that they could never mix us up.
They could pick your voice. That's
Pick our
phenomenal.
voice.
Yeah. But Dad was the disciplinarian, as was the case with a lot of when you grew up in the 80s. Dad was the boss, and Mum.
When she tried to discipline you, we just laughed.
Yeah, and then sometimes she'd try and catch us, and you'd run off. Yeah, but Dad ruled the roost, but he was fair too. Yeah.
He was hard but fair.
Yeah.
Are they still at Walbunderie?
No, none of us have been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Completely backstabbed them.
Yeah. But we have been back a couple of times.
Yeah.
You guys made it big and you guys vanished.
Yeah, we kind of all just left incrementally, didn't we? Yeah. Mum left first because our parents are divorced.
Right.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
once we realised Mum could go, it was like, oh man, we can go too.
Yeah. We're liberated.
You left me first.
I did.
Yeah, you left, and then I got stuck there, and then eventually I got out. Yeah.
It's interesting.
But no, fond memories for me. Fond memories.
Yeah. What have you got into the most trouble for doing wrong as a twin? Where have you taken the most advantage of it?
Where have we taken the most advantage of it? Well, our career, I suppose.
We are flogging this thing to death, boys, I tell you what.
But the career part's a good thing. Where have you got any trouble for it?
Where have we gotten trouble for it?
Oh, I don't know if it's trouble, but geez, the JobKeeper was good. Actually, I've got to be honest here and tell you that, when the JobKeeper payment came out during COVID, we had to share the JobKeeper payment.
That is
Why?
No joke.
That's the ultimate insult for any twin.
Why?
It was to do with a business partnership, I think, that we have.
You guys would probably know more about this than us, but our business partnership is technically I think it's called a family partnership. So they deemed that anyone that was in a family partnership could only get one JobKeeper payment. Well, you can imagine what happened when they told Chris and I that we were splitting the JobKeeper payment.
It's just like, man, this has been happening for 40 years of our life. One Christmas present, one birthday present to share. Now we're sharing the JobKeeper in the middle of a pandemic. Just rub it in, Dan Andrews.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we had to split the JobKeeper, but we had our own families.
Yeah.
So
During
two
COVID, did you guys do gigs like through Zoom?
Virtual? No.
Because I know Tahir was saying he hated that.
Yeah,
Well, he did some.
we can't even turn a computer on. Yeah, did you see how much trouble we had with this thing when we turned up here today?
but also too with comedy, it's you need to have that relationship with your audience, and that's what we love about live stand-up comedy. If you don't get that on a computer screen, if it freezes up, and also too, you feed off the crowd's laughter as well, which you don't get on a computer screen.
Yeah. We had some mates that did the whole Zoom thing during COVID, and I spoke to one of my mates, Dan Connell, and I asked him about a Zoom gig that he had, and he said, yeah, it went great. I said, what do you do to make sure that it goes well? He goes, I just mute everyone and do my jokes. So you don't know
You
if
have no
the
idea
audience
whether
is laughing or not laughing.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Speaking of audience laughing, not laughing, I'm sure there's been times where your jokes just didn't work.
Oh, absolutely.
All the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when you asked that question about whether our mum and dad could tell us apart, my response, remember, I got nothing just before.
I didn't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, it happens from time to time. Yeah, absolutely. We've had a few gigs that have gone the wrong way. And I'll tell you, the biggest gig that has ever gone badly was we did our first gig at the Comics Lounge in 2006, and we got all our mates to come along and they supported us. We must have had 50 or 60 people there that were all our friends. It was like a renter crowd, and we thought we were great because all our mates went, oh yeah, you guys are so funny, can't believe you're doing stand-up. And we went to our second gig with no mates, and boy did we drop, like we died a horrible death. Yeah. At one point during our show, someone said, bring the MC back on.
No way.
Yeah.
Why? What went wrong?
When you start comedy, you're not funny. I don't know of any comic that's started right from the word go. It's like any job you do. It takes time to learn.
Yeah.
And most people don't make it. I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a lot of people out there trying to do stand-up, and only a small percentage make it.
So you guys started in 2006.
Must have been. So we've been going about 17 years, I think.
Yeah. So it was my last year of university, and Chris had been out teaching. I was living on campus when we decided that we were going to start the stand-up comedy. And because I was living on campus and Chris was living in Albury-Wodonga, he moved in on res with me, and no one knew that there was two of us on res. Yeah. And then when they found out, it was like they just let you stay, didn't they? Rent free.
So that's probably one way we utilised the twin thing. I lived at a university campus when I wasn't even a student.
Assuming his identity.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but everyone just accepted it. It was like, oh, yeah, no, they're twins, so it's cool. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Speaking of stealing each other's identity, has that ever happened to me when I was at school?
Now,
we would have both taught you at different times.
I don't know. I don't know. But to me, it's always like, it's him. And it's only him.
Yeah. Everyone always called us sir, so I suppose that's always...
Yeah.
People don't have to worry about... And you wouldn't get it wrong if you said Mr. Nelson either.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I probably would have taught Ali more...
What year
you
did
wouldn't have taught him much.
No. It was usually free time when I came into the classroom. Yeah.
Did you guys ever do like comedy while teaching?
No.
In class?
I always try and bring a vibrant.
Yeah, that's our philosophy. Any environment, any atmosphere we're in, we're always trying to bring the comedy. Yeah, we're on stage, we're telling jokes, but that's...
We're just all about having a laugh.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah. We when we sit down and have dinner, it's almost like we can see, if we're sitting down having dinner, it's almost like we can just see the cog ticking over of like how we're just going to start hammering each other with jokes. There's not a lot of, oh mate, I see you're doing well and this is going well. It's just like, how can we just pound the other guy into the ground?
Being an identical twin is just a game of one-upmanship. Yeah. That's all it is. Yeah. Just constant banter.
Yeah. And that's the dynamic we take on stage as well.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking about on stage, obviously you had your sort of, you're building up to becoming sort of popular comedians. And then you went to Australia's Got Talent. That's a whole different level.
That day was insane. I was a student when that aired.
Right.
And you guys were like rock stars, man.
Yeah.
I'll never forget
They're
it.
on TV. You know somebody
you
who's
guys
on TV.
celebrities, man.
Yeah, celebrities.
Yeah. I can't say I felt like a rock star when I was driving in my Commodore 1995 model, hubcap missing. Yeah.
So how did you arrive at that decision? And when do you know, like, look, now is the right time for us to go out there and really put ourselves out there to the public? Because that's really gutsy. That takes...
Oh, thank you very much. They actually found us. So it wasn't as though we auditioned. The year before, they had a comedian on there called The Old Fella, and comedy went really well on Australia's Got Talent, and they decided to cast the net wider. So they found a heap of comedians, and it was just lucky that they found us. And we ummed and ahed about going on the show, didn't we? Because we were thinking, geez, what happens if we go on there? We'd seen people on the show the previous year where they try and embarrass them, and it was a big risk for us, and we took it, but it paid off. It really did propel us to that next level. And we had a great couple of years after Australia.
We did,
didn't we? We did some amazing things.
Yeah.
Travelled to the UK to film a TV series for National Geographic, and we got lots and lots of gigs, and it was just a really fun time. I don't think we taught for 2 years, or not much. Yeah.
Wow. So you went to the semis in the Australia's Got Talent, and that's where that journey ended. And then you went on to the Britain's Got Talent,
Correct.
the champions one.
Yep.
Yeah, after we swore we'd never do another Got Talent show.
So how did that go? Obviously, you're coming up against some really stiff judges. You got Simon Cowell there. You got all these guys out there. This is a global audience now. How does that feel? That would be nerve-wracking.
It was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many were in that crowd, but it was
6
a huge...
or 7,000, I think.
Yeah, it was a huge day too. They want you there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're not on till 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
And for London, it was a heat wave. It was about 35 degrees. They've never heard of an air conditioner over there. That was another one where we ummed and ahed about, but we took it on, and that was good too.
Yeah, it didn't go as well as what we wanted it to. Britain's Got Talent. For me, I know this has been an argument for you and I, Chris, but when it came to air, they had edited our set so badly that they chopped out the start of our performance to make it look like we had a slow start, which never happened on the day. And then they changed all our jokes around. And so I had a killer joke that I led with that got like massive laughs. And then when we saw it on the TV, it was gone.
What was the joke?
What was the joke? Tell us now.
Oh, it's not going to be funny if I tell it now.
So they separated the order. Yeah, they separated the order.
I'll give you a hint. It was a twin joke.
It was one of those. It wasn't him. It was me.
Let's unpick these Got Talents a bit. So you got Australia and you got the UK. Now, the Australia one, who was in there? Who was the judge in there? That guy that I hate.
What,
What's his
you
name?
had Carl Sandilands.
Carl Sandilands.
You had Danny Minogue.
Minogue.
And you had
Brian
McFadden.
McFadden. But he never turned up every episode. He only turned up every second episode.
Okay.
Brian McFadden, yeah. He was prone to having a sickie.
You guys met them, or was it just you guys dumped on the stage and then they just tell you good?
You get to meet them because we were around the show for a few episodes. I can't remember how many it was. But we also did another one in America called The World's Best. And that was just a spin-off, a rip-off of all the Got Talent format, but another network. I can't remember which network it was. But it was horrendous. They axed it after about 3 episodes, I think. So we never got to air.
Yeah, so we got flown to America.
Oh, no.
It was amazing. It was a multi-million-dollar setup.
Yeah.
And it was going to be the biggest thing ever. And they had acts flown in from all over the world. And when we started the show, they wanted us to do 3 minutes, a 3-minute set. And all the acts had 3 minutes. But they had like all these big mechanical machines. And so some of the acts they couldn't do in 3 minutes. And the whole show blew out to something that they couldn't condense back into...
Yeah.
to
The
mainstream
other
TV.
acts had all these extras. The only thing we need is a lawyer. That's, they just start ticking things off. Nah, you can't do it. You can't say it. Prime time, 7:30. No. It was funny. I think we had in our mind a 3 or 4 minute set that we were going to do, and when we got there and ran through our stuff with a lawyer, we basically had to do a whole different thing.
Jeez, that much?
Yeah. It's just.
Yeah, I think you call it halal. It's got to be halal.
Yeah.
100%.
And also the American culture is a lot different. We get a lot of their TV and understand all that their stuff because we watch all their movies and their television. But I don't think there's a lot of Americans that are sitting over there watching Aussie TV.
Exactly.
So it's almost like we're speaking a foreign language.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you have the Aussie accent and all that type of stuff in the US. I don't know how well that would be received. And also the Aussie sense of humour and banter and whatnot is quite different to the US, I think.
Absolutely.
So when you're preparing for something like that, do you take in mind your audience there, or are you like, you know what, we're just going to be us and that's it?
You have to take in mind the audience there. So we'll go, if we're doing any gig overseas, we'll always go into the smaller clubs first to try and run your stuff and work out what works. Yeah, we don't just kind of fly in to do the one spot on telly. We'll try and spend a week or two there and trying to work the crowds out and because you've got to change words and in America you have to kind of slow it down and it's only because they don't understand the accent if you talk really fast.
Yeah, in Britain's Got Talent, I did a joke where I would say the word yogurt, but I had to say yogurt.
Yogurt. Yeah. I realised that. Yeah, I heard the recording.
It felt so strange. It was playing on my mind the whole time. Yeah, I felt so silly saying yogurt. But they told me I had to say it. I said,
what's your process, both of your process, before a big gig like a Show's Got Talent? Now, obviously, it's, as Mazza said, it's nerve-wracking, right? What do you guys do? How do you guys relax your bodies? What do you guys do?
I stretch a lot. It's like a game of football. Yeah. I think it must be weird when people come to a show and they go out the back, all the other comedians, and they see Chris and I, and we're standing out the back doing hamstring stretches. Sometimes in unison.
Yeah. No, I just like to relax, go over my notes, make sure I know what I'm doing.
You used to smoke a lot of cigarettes.
I used to be a smoker. I used to be a cigarette smoker, but I quit 3 years ago, and now I'm addicted to the Nicorette.
The next best thing.
Yeah.
So that's how you quit the Nicorette.
Yeah, I did some patches for a while, and then I'm on the Chewies.
Yeah. Smoking was so important to Chris. He nearly walked off the set of Britain's Got Talent, didn't you, Chris? Tell them a story about how you nearly walked off the set. Remember you asked to leave to go and buy a pack of cigarettes?
Ah, right,
and, yeah. The producer said, oh, look, I'll just have to check with everyone else to make sure it's okay that you leave. And 6 months later, Chris told me that he was about to walk off. Don't you remember telling me that? Or
Mate, don't air our dirty because I'm sure I've got heaps of stuff that I can just pull out of the archives.
It's a safe space. Please share.
Okay, right. So people always ask, and you guys asked it at the start of the episode about, how long have you had the beard? 17 years. Yeah, we've had them 17 years, but we had a little bit of a break in between there, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we lost the beards there for a little while. Can you tell us why that happened?
Well, I was going to quit comedy.
No, because Justin had a girlfriend at the time, and she said, "You look absolutely terrible. You choose the comedy, or choose me." And Justin goes, "I'll take you. And I swear to God, I'm driving on the Hume Freeway one day, and Justin rings me up, and he goes, "I've got something to tell you." And I was like, "Yeah, I've got my beard fluffing in the wind as I'm driving." And Justin goes, "Yeah, I've shaved my beard off," and I was like, "What?" Yeah, he goes, "Yeah," and it was all for a girl.
Look,
and how long the stubble had hardly even grown back before she booted him.
Oh God! Well, we're airing some dirty water here, lads. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, you thought I'd forgotten. I never forget, mate.
You spoke briefly just before about ensuring that your content is airable, I guess, if that's really a word. Mm-hmm. In today's culture, there's so much discussion about cancel culture and all this type of stuff. I mean, lots of comedians are now coming out there. You've had Gabriel Iglesias come out there. So many people come out there and now talk about the fact that, look, I'm not going to go back and apologize for material and sets that I've used in the past that in that point in time were okay. And based on today's world, it's no longer, above board.
Yeah.
How does that work from a comedian's perspective? Because you get the most laughs when you are taking the mickey out of somebody. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's about cultures, religions, communities, whatever it is. And part of Australian culture is that we're happy to laugh at ourselves.
Absolutely.
You can have the biggest laugh at your own whatever.
Yeah. I'm not into cancel culture or whatever people call it. The good comics move with the times and make whoever's in front of them laugh. That's my philosophy on it.
Yeah.
It's tough to be able to go back and say, oh, well, I did that joke 10 years ago and maybe now people are offended. I mean, we've all made mistakes. Whether you call it a mistake even, I don't know. But you can't change what was appropriate 10 years ago and what's not now. But in terms of currently, whatever audience is in front of you, you make them laugh and don't make excuses. That's our philosophy.
Yeah,
we don't make
exactly,
any excuses.
Yeah. And people will often ask us, what can and can't you say on stage? It's not up to us.
Yeah,
it's
the
up to
audience
what
let you know.
audience-
Yeah,
yeah.
the audience let you know.
Yeah, if the audience laugh, that's a thumbs up that the joke is good.
Yeah. And
Was
if they-
there a joke that you guys got in trouble for?
Oh, there's been plenty.
Yeah.
There's been plenty.
We did some jokes about the royal family when we were on Britain's Got Talent. That caused a little bit of controversy.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And because we wanted to do some jokes about the royal family and they wouldn't let us do that. And then Ant and Deck are the two guys that are hosting it, and one of them had a little few drinks one night and crashed his car, and I wanted to make a few jokes about that. And they said, "No, you can't." I said, "No, they're knockabout lads." So, so I don't even think they asked them, but also too for us, we'll often go into a gig. And you don't know who's going to be there sometimes. If you're doing a club somewhere and you park around the back and you come in, obviously you try to peek out the curtain and see who's there. But sometimes you don't know. And please welcome to the stage the Nelson twins. You hear the clap and you're walking out and you've got a split second to kind of look at the demographic, old, young, male, female, and kind of work it all out as you're going. But
And we've got it wrong a couple of times.
Yeah,
we've got
it
it
happens. Yeah.
How do you
Blacktown
bounce
art-
back? How do you bounce back from a terrible joke?
How do you bounce back from
Well,
a terrible...
Blacktown RSL Club, we walked from the RSL Club to our hotel. It was about 18 kilometres. I believe our words were, "Let's walk the stench off." We walked straight out the back door off the stage. It was cold. It was raining. Do you want to get a cab?
No, we don't even deserve a cab home.
And then, of course, as we are twins brothers, we're walking back and we go, "It's your fault." No, it was your fault. You should have said that. But yeah, we did this gig at the Blacktown RSL Club, and RSL Club, the average age must have been about 80. There were handkerchiefs, grey cardigans, dentures.
But there was just nothing we could do. They just weren't our demographic.
Yeah, and they were seated back from the stage. They must have been, there was a dance floor. They must have been about 20 metres back, which if you've got hearing issues, there were a few hearing aids. I think we deal with that better now. This was 10, 12 years ago. We're better dealing with those situations now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for bringing up that, lads. Appreciate it.
PTSDs.
Yeah.
How do you go about writing your jokes? Do you guys just sit there one day and just brainstorm, or does just rock up while having
We
a
write
shower?
separately now. We write separately and then just come together.
I don't refer to them as jokes. I refer to it as banter.
Yeah.
So Chris and I will often just text message each other the most offensive thing that we can think of. And then that turns into a joke, doesn't it?
Yeah, we'll just just play around with it and then you just try it somewhere and sometimes sometimes you have to tinker with it a little bit. Sometimes it doesn't work. It's kind of...
But a lot of our joke comes from reality, as we were talking about earlier. It used to come from probably just one angle of being identical twins, but as we've got older and we've started to have families and kids, and there's lots of jokes about each other's families, and and it's just all in good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't take it
When you
too
talk about
seriously.
families, does your wife find you funny?
Yeah, I reckon she does, but my wife's from Thailand, so I don't think I know when she first got here, she didn't understand. Like, you can imagine the Aussie culture and the Aussie sense of humour. For anyone who hasn't been exposed to it, it just blows your mind. Yeah. But now that she knows me so well, and she's got a great sense of humour too. Justin's, your girlfriend's got a good sense of humour too.
Yeah, she's got they've had to evolve to have a great sense of humour.
So my wife's got a great sense of humour, and she's slowly starting to pick up the little intricacies of the Aussie sense of humour.
And sarcasm. We use a lot of
That's
sarcasm.
right.
Yeah. Aussies are very sarcastic.
Yeah.
It's like part of culture.
It's the best form of humour.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Do you practice on your wife when you come up with a joke?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't think you ever switch off when you're a comedian. It's just on all the time. Yeah. You're always looking for that next joke out of nothing. And sometimes I try and do that with my son, who's 7. And he doesn't quite get it yet, and sometimes he'll get a little bit shirty about it, and I'll say, mate, don't forget to have your sense of humour. But sometimes he probably just can't grasp the concept of it. But that's certainly something I hope to instill in him is don't ever forget to have a sense of humour. And it's the same thing that we would say to you guys in the corporate environment. It's you've always got to maintain that sense of humour. If you're coming to work every day and you're not laughing, then geez, it makes it a long day. And also you find what the appropriate sense of humour is for the environment that you're in. That sense of humour that you might have with your mates on a weekend is probably going to be different to what's in the office. But, gee, surely there's a sense of humour in everyone, and you find what's funny and what people like to talk about. And that's what you do.
Is there some good banter in the office?
There's tons of banter.
It's how you get through the day, isn't it? Yeah.
Because a lot of us sort of, we've known each other outside of work as well. So you carry forward those relationships and you've got a lot of history with one another. And
he's labelled Mr. Bollywood.
Mr. Bollywood,
And it's ridiculous. It's like, his father and I, Hakan and I, we were in Malaysia on a business trip, and we happened to be walking past the shop, and it was called the Bollywood shop. And he's like, Mazza, just stand there. I want to take a picture of you. I stood there, took a picture, and somehow it had my picture, and Bollywood sign over my head. And it just stuck. And now this is office-wide meme that goes on, Mr. Bollywood, Mr. Bollywood.
Now that you mention it, it's definitely a Bollywood look there. Definitely.
Just goes around like PowerPoint presentations.
It's crazy.
That's how we introduce him. So do you have that in there?
But again, like you want to be sort of flexible enough and happy enough to allow yourself to be made a fool of every now and then, and then you can always fight back as well every now and then.
Exactly.
So you cop it, sometimes you dish it out other times.
That's right.
That's such is life. You spoke about the Blacktown RSL as being sort of one of the lower points in the career. What would you consider to be one of your best performances? Like, let's say, for example, the most famous person or place you performed at.
Definitely the most interesting place we've been to do stand-up is Baghdad.
What?
Yeah. So we went to entertain the troops.
Please tell.
Okay. Yeah, we went to entertain the troops.
American troops.
Australian troops.
Americans, New Zealanders. Yeah, so we flew to Dubai, did some shows there for the Australian Army, and then we got on a Hercules and flew to the northern suburbs of Baghdad. Justin and I were sitting in the cockpit as it landed. Yeah. So
experience.
So that was a pretty cool experience.
I would have to say also one of my greatest experiences was National Geographic. We filmed a show for National Geographic, and in the contracts it said that they had to fly us premium economy to England, and because they left the flight so late, they ended up only being able to get business class seats for the way over, right? And on the way home, because they left the flight so late to book for me, we were on separate airlines, they had no premium economy, no business, and the only option they had for me was first class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they rang me up and they said, look, would you be happy, we can't find you any premium economy, would you be happy if we just put you in economy class? And I went,
Nah.
So I got a first class trip from London back to
which airline?
Australia. It was with British Airways.
So
Jetstar. So it was like economy for everyone. So those are some of the things that stick out in your mind, some of those trips. We've done some shows in Vanuatu. We've been over there a couple of times. I love the people over there, love the environment.
With Thailand.
Bangkok. Yeah, did a show in Bangkok. Yeah, but I love getting out to the country. We've just been in Swan Hill, and then last night we're in Ocean Grove. Yeah, I really like getting back to the country. Haven't spent so long living in the city now. It's kind of great to get back.
And after 2 years of lockdown, we never ever complain anymore about a 5-hour drive somewhere in a car. But yeah, Swan Hill was great. So they've had the floods up there, so the community has had a little bit of turmoil. Yeah. And we got to Swan Hill and we didn't sort of really know how bad it was, but apparently you couldn't drink the water there.
Jeez.
Yeah, but they forgot to tell us that.
I had bottled water, but...
well, I didn't, so the water's full of E. coli, and I was drinking it the whole time. So it's not all first-class travel with stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's insane. I'm still stuck in the first class. Man, I've always wanted to fly first class. I'm too poor for that, right?
Imagine the sight of actually the decent humans on that flight when they saw this guy get on. Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah.
They probably filed the complaint to the airline.
Yeah.
We had an unsavory character.
What sort of clientele have we got on here?
Yeah. When I was on the flight, Guy Sebastian was on the same flight as me. Yeah, he was only in business, so I sort of, as I was going past him, I was like, "Guy, you're gonna have to move."
Yeah.
Explain the look. No, why this look?
Why this look?
It's laziness.
We grew the beards. Just to start, something a bit different. Also, too, I think when you first start being able to grow facial hair, you go, "Oh, Jesus, wow, this is all right." So you kind of roll with that.
But comedy is all about a point of difference. So having a point of difference to the other acts, and we've got one point of difference in the fact that we're identical twins.
Well, you've got two.
What's that?
You're not as funny. You look different, and your gags aren't as good.
Yeah. Do you see what I've got to put up with?
He's full on, this guy. He just never stops.
It's just always. I'm just ready to roll. I'm ready to bounce.
So the second point of difference was the big beards and the long hair.
Yeah. And it's just kind of stuck, and we just got used to it. And I don't know. I find it weird to change it now. And also, my wife and son don't know me any different than this. So if I ever wanted to leg it, I suppose I could just, I could just shave the head, shave the beard, and they'd never be able to find me. Yeah. I could probably walk past them. Hey, you going?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, when you're doing stand-up, you start somewhere. Right?
Yep.
Where did you guys, where was the first gig that you guys did?
First gig was here in Melbourne, and that was that one that Justin was talking about where we had our friends come along.
At the Comics Lounge in North Melbourne.
Yeah, but the early gigs back in those days, before the internet and before you could get yourself a profile on social media, they were in little pubs where you'd go to some pub in a suburb where there was 5 people, and I just realised I've got to blow my nose. But I'm scared to leave you here on your own because I just reckon you'll sink this podcast. Reza, have you got a tissue?
Yeah. Well, let's keep the camera rolling, mate. just show everyone what you can do.
You can edit this bit out.
Yeah. Chris was.
Mate, we're gonna make him real out of this one.
Oh, you're a good man. Should I go out and do it?
No, go for it. Right on the mic.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, enjoy your COVID, lads.
A bit of hay fever.
That's what they say.
Chris was talking about doing gigs in pubs to 5 people. We actually did a gig to no one once.
No.
Yeah, to 0 people.
And you guys went ahead with it?
We went ahead with it on principle. Because the comedian that was on before us, there were 3 people in the crowd, and he offended them with his material. And when he finished, they got up and left. And the host of the show said, "Oh, well, you guys are on next. You want to do it?" And we're like, "You know what? We're doing it." Yeah. There was a couple of bar staff there, and so we just got up and I suppose because we could play off each other a bit, there were a few comedians.
So you know
there
how
as well.
Chris rags on me?
Yeah.
That night he just ragged on everyone else in the room. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the bar staff. But there were no actual paid crowd left by the time they got on the stage. So it's a weird thing to be able to do a show to no one. And someone asked me last night at the show, because we did a show last night in Ocean Grove. There were 50 people there. And someone said, "Oh, do you prefer the bigger shows?" And you know what? You have to have the mindset. It doesn't matter. Whoever is there is you're there to entertain. It doesn't matter if there's 2,000 people or 10 people. You can't change your mindset at all. Yeah, and I think in the early days you'd turn up, and if there was a small crowd, you'd be a bit disappointed because you needed a bigger crowd to get more laughs. But now it makes no difference. Yeah. And Justin, you were good last night too.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, finally a compliment.
Hold on, we're just going to
record
check
that.
this. Reza, how far into the podcast are we, mate? How many minutes have we
At the
done?
40-minute mark, there's a
40 minute
compliment.
mark, yeah.
40 minutes and he's paid me a compliment.
Took long enough.
No, hey, can I speak to your HR on my way out?
Do you have a HR department?
We do have a HR department.
do.
Yeah.
That's where we're making jokes.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
where
That's
the
off
jokes
limits.
stop.
Off
Yeah.
limits.
Off limits.
Off limits, yeah.
Off limits.
Yeah.
And we make sure if we are going to joke that the doors are closed.
Yeah.
She can't hear anything.
Yeah. That's the funny thing about business. Is the HR department one person?
One person.
Yeah.
It ticks a box.
Yeah.
People ask, do you have a HR department?
Yeah,
Yes, we
that's
do.
right. Yeah, it's the department doesn't seem like
Yeah.
the right word, does it? Yeah. You surely you could get the HR department working from home. That's in
You probably
today's
can.
current landscape. You can
And just go ham on the jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, or get rid of the HR department and just have a complaints box.
We have that
yeah.
on the fridge. On the fridge. And I don't think anyone put anything in there.
There was one stage over here. We have a shredding box, and someone put the complaints box on top of the shredding box. And then
right,
someone
yeah.
took a picture of it, circulated a meme saying, "Look, this is where the complaints go. They go through here, they end up in the."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just-
I've got a process that I use with the complaints that we get. Not very often, but
Yeah.
occasionally we get a complaint via email. So I just add that person to our mailing list. You never hear from them again. That's great.
Yeah.
Was there a time when you're obviously cracking jokes, someone actually got up and said something bad, or they got offended and they made a scene? Any of those scenarios?
It happens from time to time.
From time to time. But remember the couple that had a fight at our show?
That was about 3 or 4 months ago. We were doing a show in Noosa, and a couple had a fight in the middle of our show. Yeah. And that's the thing, when something happens, you have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You can't, it's the elephant in the
can't
room.
ignore
Exactly, you can't ignore it.
If we just continue to do jokes and we just pay no attention to the fact that there's a couple having a dispute, and yeah, so we just started commentating all right, he's taking a backward step here. Yeah, and to be honest, the crowd loved it. They absolutely loved it. Also, too, because they were thinking, well, hang on a minute, we've paid to come and watch a show, and you guys are having a fight. So if these guys are gonna commentate your fight, well, this is kind of cool with us, yeah. And with all due respect, like as she was leaving, she turned around and she went. And I kind of thought, well, hang on a minute, you've had the fight in the middle of my show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But all sorts of funny stuff happen when you're doing comedy. We did a show once, we were over in South Australia, and we turn up and they go, oh, the show's going to be outside, and you guys are going to be doing your show with cordless mics next to a sheep pen. There's going to be a dozen sheep in the pen there. And
and everyone else was farmers, and they were
sitting
all
on
like,
tractors and
50 metres away from us. It was horrendous.
Yeah. So you're halfway through a joke and you hear meh.
I don't know if you guys have ever been to SeaWorld on the Gold Coast.
Yes,
If you go to the penguin show, the penguins are out on this island.
Yeah.
They start out on an island, and the crowd's sort of on the other side of the water, about 30 metres away. We turned up to do a corporate gig there one night, and the lady says, oh, we're going to put you guys out on the island to do your
They have to
jobs."
take
That
you
was
out
on
by
a
boat. Yeah, it's only
Yeah, yeah.
30, 40 metres. And I was like, you sure we're going to have a connection with the audience? Yeah, and we'll be doing our stuff and the dolphins. It's crazy the amount of situations that you get yourself into doing stand-up. And Justin and I are renowned. We'll turn up to a venue and we'll start moving tables and chairs and we'll set it up how we want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you turn up somewhere, people they haven't seen a lot of comedy, they don't know how it works, and they go, "Oh, we'll sit you in the corner, or we'll put the crowd right back there, and you guys here, and we'll leave a big gap for the dance floor that we can all get to later on." It's like, hey, we need to close this up. We need to have that interaction with the audience.
So we did a show once at a pub in Corowa in New South Wales, and we turned up, and the show was on the balcony of the pub.
Yeah, you're up on the street.
Yeah, but the lady organising it, right, she had 2 sets of tickets. She had people who had paid for dinner and a show, so she put them at the front on the tables, and she had other people who had only paid for a ticket to the show. So she thought she would punish them. She put the seats 100 metres away from the stage, and she said, well, these people haven't paid for dinner and a show, so we're going to sit them right up there. And Chris and I looked at each other and we went,
it's no good for us.
That's not going to work for us.
Yeah.
You're going to sink your own show. Yeah.
We did one show around Mildura once, and we turn up. The show was around a lake. Every year they have this festival, and we're driving in, and there was a truck and one spotlight. And people with deck chairs, and some of them are 150 metres away. Yeah.
So you couldn't actually see that we were identical twins because the spotlight only went on to one of us.
Oh, okay.
So here we were up on the stage. But people must have been thinking,
there's one guy doing twin jokes.
There's a bloke doing twin jokes here. Yeah.
All sorts of different dynamics. You got to roll with the punches, and sometimes you just take it as a challenge. Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of comedians out there, right? Especially in the last several years, everyone thinks they're the most funniest person. What sets you both apart, other than being twins?
What makes us funny?
Yeah, other than being twins.
Well, I would like to say that I don't think you can ever sit there and say, oh, I'm the best, I'm funny. You just keep working hard. You just keep working hard and keep trying to write good jokes. I think the minute you get comfortable and say, oh, yeah, I'm cruising along, I'm doing really well, that's no good. That's no good for anyone. So you just keep working your butt off.
Yeah, I'd like to think that it's our jokes that make us what we are.
Yeah.
We listen to the audience. If the audience doesn't laugh, we don't blame anyone else other than ourselves. Accountability. That's it.
Yeah. I think you take that with you anywhere.
We're getting better. We're getting better, aren't we?
Yeah.
God,
if you followed instructions better, it'd be smoother.
We used to fight a lot, didn't we? For the first 10 years of our comedy career, we would come off stage and we would just yell at each other, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. And we figured out that it wasn't productive to being a good act. And the biggest barrier to communication is anger. And once we figure that out, we've got better.
Yeah.
That's actually
work
solid
in progress,
advice.
though.
That's solid advice.
Yeah.
The anger part.
Yeah, it's the same in the workplace too. Where does anger get you? It gets you nowhere.
Yeah, it gets the HR department.
It gives them work.
Yeah,
exactly. I've always wondered, stand-up comedians are notorious for, ragging on people specifically from the crowd. How do you pick who your targets will be? Because that always freaks me out, right? Ali and I will go to a performance, someone will be like, you know what, don't sit near the front. You're going to get picked on. Even, for example, at our launch event, right? We're like, oh, you know what? If we're in the front row, and it's a good thing, I think the star hero said, look, you know what? We're not going to pick on this table. And they pointed at our table there, the VIPs, organisers, whatever it was. Looking on, we're not going to rag on these people. I said, okay, thank God.
I was gutted, man, when they didn't pick you.
We have a philosophy, and we always say it to each other before we go on stage, bring them with us. That's what we want to try and do. You don't want to be on stage being aggressive and slamming someone. You can still make jokes. We always say
bring them along for the ride.
Bring them along for the ride. That's what we want to do, And when it's magic when you can get it going to different members in the audience at the same time. You're talking to this one, you cross them back to this one. It's but we always say just before we go on stage, right, let's bring them with us. I mean, the last thing you want to do is we never set out to offend anyone on purpose, but
it happens.
It happens.
From time to time. Yeah. And it's generally not our fault. Yeah, when you do comedy in environments where people are drinking, then occasionally.
And also people have different tastes and different likes too. It's sometimes
something I say to you might be offensive to someone else.
Yeah.
And you don't mean to do it. But, I mean, you haven't meant to be offensive to me this whole podcast.
No. I thought I was bringing you with us. Aren't we a team?
Speaking of team, so if one of you decide I'm done for comedy, does the other one retire as well?
Yeah, I think it's an idle threat either of us make every now
And
and
how
then.
many times have we threatened to quit?
And then the other one goes, "You won't do it."
It's like blackmailing each other.
Yeah. Oh, the amount of times we've threatened to quit, and then someone rings up and says, "Oh, we've got this gig for you." And I ring Chris and I go, "Oh, look, mate, so yeah, we've got a gig. It's this much cash." And Chris goes, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah. Cash is good. Take it.
Yeah.
No, now this part you don't have to disclose, but I'm gonna ask because we finance people and we love money, right? Especially if Maza loves it, right? biggest payday for a gig.
Biggest
Where
payday.
and what?
Well, depends on if it's stand up or TV. So, and in the early days before social media and the internet took off, we used to do a lot of TV ads, and we won't disclose too much about different companies. But the biggest amount of money we've made in one hit is from TV advertising.
Well, look, let's tell the story about Hewlett Packard.
Oh yeah,
You can beep that out. You can beep them out if. Yeah, speak to your lawyer about that. So when we finished Australia's Got Talent, we got an offer to go over to America. They had this new product. It was like the first iPad, wasn't it, really? But it was the size of a TV.
It was supposed to be a mix between your regular PC and an iPad. It was this big monstrosity. It was. I seriously don't know how they got it through to the point where they launched the product. And I guess they thought it'd be funny if a couple of bearded guys come over and they paid us solid money.
Yeah.
I won't tell you how much they paid us, but we got over there and the product was an absolute piece of shit. And they had two of them there because we were filming these sketches that they were launching online. And so they had two of these iPads there. And
iPad
slash
PC,
TV, whatever this thing was.
It was portable, but you could hardly pick it up.
Wow.
It was that heavy.
And so we're shooting these sketches and the director would say action and we'd have to use this computer as part of the thing and we'd start trying to scroll it and the thing would freeze up. So this is the product that they're about to try and launch. And we're getting picked up in the limo, and we think, man, how much are they blowing on this thing? And man, they were such a great crew though. They'd got this, I don't know, this advertising agency full of like young, cool, hip dudes from Chicago, and oh man, they were so cool. But it was like someone had just been given a blank check, and and then when we got home. For months and months, we look in JB Hi-Fi or whatever. We never saw the product. I reckon the executive just got discontinued. Hey mate, you're out of here.
Whoever's in charge of that got fired.
Yeah, that just cost us a lot of money. But so that's just some of the random stuff we've done. But as you can imagine, these were in our younger days too. You get a phone call, hey, do you want to come to Chicago for a week and film some online advertising? And and the thing is, a lot of the times, almost every time that Justin and I have travelled somewhere, whether we're going over to Edinburgh to do the festival, America, or whatever, we hang together and work, but we always separate as soon as the work's done. It goes somewhere different. So I would often go to Thailand because my wife or son would be there. I'd go somewhere in Europe, and I think last time we were in America, Justin went to...
I went to Cuba.
I went to Cuba, and I went to Thailand. Justin's like, you want to come to Cuba with me? I was like, you're on your own, buddy.
How was Cuba?
Oh, it was amazing.
Did you go by yourself?
I went by myself. Yeah. But at the time, I had a broken arm. I broke my arm 6 days before we left to go to America.
How'd you break that?
I fell off a horse. We were filming for this American show.
Don't big note yourself. It was a pony.
Hey, I've got the scars to prove it. So I had 6 days. I rang around. I had to ring around all the orthopedic surgeons in Albury-Wodonga because that's where the accident happened. We were filming at Walbunderie. And I got an orthopedic surgeon to fix my hand, and he couldn't put plaster on it because it would have swelled on the plane. So we went over to America and filmed, and I should have been recovering. I should have been at home in bed, arm up, and I got to Cuba and I was so unwell. And when we come home, we had a stopover. Well, I had a stopover in LA, and America being a user pay system, you go to the doctor. Basically, what they did was they brought me out a list, a menu of things that I could choose because I was so sick. They said, the only way you're going to be able to get on the plane, I was vomiting. They said, we're going to have to give you, a whole host of stuff. So I ticked all the boxes, and she goes, whatever you do, don't take all these at once.
Yeah.
So I got on the plane. What do? I take
Took it all.
everything at once. The A380 lands at Tullamarine Airport, and I'm unconscious, and
Jeez.
they have to get a medical team in biochemical suits onto the plane, and I wake up and I'm hooked up to these heart monitors in my seat, and
Jeez.
450 people screaming because they couldn't get off the plane because I'd
Yeah, I think the backstory to that too is it was the world's best TV show we were doing. Justin being a yes man, butt kisser that he is. They wanted to push this angle of the Aussie boys from the country. Well, we'd lived in the city for 15 years.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, yeah, we're getting the Aussies over. Can you ride a horse? And Justin's like, yeah, we can ride a horse. Yeah. Oh, man, we could not ride a horse. I swear to God, we turn up out at this farm and we had no idea how to ride a horse. And both our horses bolted on us. And they had a drone going on over the top to try and film it all. I thought it was nearly over for me. My horse bolted towards a fence, and I didn't know how to. I didn't know what to do, and it just stopped. It was its own.
We should have pulled up stumps there.
Yeah,
but the director said we'll get one more, and of course my horse bolted and threw me off, and broke my wrist in 4 places.
Ouch.
Had it plated.
And then you just decided to go to Cuba.
Yeah, and then decided to go to Cuba.
Yeah. Well, speaking of horses, I reckon this podcast run its race. No, I'm messing with you. I've got to blow me nose again. No, I just feel like you killed it with your story with no punchline.
I hadn't told that one before. Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry I'm not as good as you, mate.
Yeah. See how I had to clean up afterwards and just throw a bit of ha-ha in there? But it's been great.
Yeah, it's been good. Been good to see you again.
It has been. It's been great to see you, and
I'm sure
because we often bump into students that we used to teach. Well, we have done some work in prisons as well. We've been into prisons, and we did bump into an ex-student.
Yep,
and
it
happens.
John Faulkner?
No,
not from John Faulkner. No,
Right.
but generally most of the time, even some of the kids that were a little bit naughty, they go on to do great things. Yeah. And even tradies in IT, in business, some in sport, even the ones that didn't work real hard at school.
Ali, you are a classic example.
Thank you very much.
Granted, your dad owns the business.
And you funded
But that had nothing to do with you getting the job here, all right? Absolutely nothing.
On that topic, gents, I've got a question for you, and this is a bit of a plug for the great work that you do as well. Outside of being a comedian, you guys you have your own workshop, Stand Up and Be Counted, right? So I was reading up on this. It's a great cause. Could you share and explain what that's all about?
I think we've shared a bit of it with you today. I talked about communication. Often companies come to us and say, we want to improve the communication between our employees. And that's a classic example where I said that anger is the biggest barrier for communication. And it's not hard. We just share our experiences.
Yeah, we just share our experiences. We often do it trying to get people to talk about their comedy experiences as well. But our number one philosophy is you've always got to have a sense of humour.
Yeah.
Even in some of the most darkest times. And I don't want to put a dampener on it, but we should probably talk about it. Our dad passed away a few months ago. Yeah, and we laughed with him right up until the end. We never stopped laughing.
Yeah. We were laughing after.
Yeah.
Even when the Undertaker turned up.
We just that's how he had a great sense of humour too. And we didn't throw the towel in and go, oh well, that's it. We're gonna drop the bundle and lose our sense of humour and be miserable and disappointed. We just we laughed right to the end and
that's our
I don't
philosophy.
know. That's our philosophy on life.
Yeah.
No, you do some great work in that workshop. I was reading up about sort of, encouraging people to do public speaking and really coming out of their shell and sort of, being able to engage and interact, which is so important these days. You have a lot of people who are really, particularly in the business world, really highly credentialed in terms of degrees and masters and this and that. But when it comes to the interpersonal skills, they really lack that because no one's really either taught them how to behave in that manner or really given them the opportunity or platform to sort of express themselves. And I think these workshops are great for that. So, awesome.
And confidence is the key too. I always say to people, you have to believe that you can do it first. The amount of people when we're running these workshops that go, oh no, I can't do it, and I always try and hide from public speaking. Well, if that's your mentality, you've got to try and flick that. The number one thing is when you're about to be introduced or it's your turn to do your presentations, your turn to go on stage, you have to have that attitude, that belief that, hey, I can do this. And Justin and I spoke about your public speaking at the function that we saw, and we also spoke about Peter Bowles' public speaking. He's out getting paid on the public speaking circuit, and he didn't start the language until he was 10 years old. Like Justin and I were just blown away by that.
And you did a great job, Ali.
And you were great too.
Yeah.
And mate, you had a couple of zinger gags in there. And even there were a couple where you thought you didn't quite get the laugh, and we were sitting there going, oh, you nailed that one.
Nice.
But Peter was fantastic because I can't imagine what it'd be like to try and speak in another language, and here he is. Great athlete, but we left admiring the way he spoke more so than a guy that had been to 2 Olympic Games.
Now, gentlemen, the way we wrap up this podcast is I like to ask 10 out of interest questions. It's like 10 rapid fire questions.
Right?
And there's both of you, so it's going to take up double the time, Reza, so I do apologize. To start off, you guys ready?
What do you want to do? We'll just answer one.
One at a time, or
no? I'm just thinking we could answer
at the same time.
I'm just thinking that. Do you want an answer from both of us, or
one each? That would be better.
Yeah, okay, mate. Hey, it's your
not
podcast.
One each. Want to hear from both of you?
Yeah,
cool.
Okay.
All right.
So
We'll start.
Are you going to let me speak?
Well, it depends on how quick. I mean, the hamster takes a little longer for Duzzo to get going, so I'll probably be able to get in first
reaction time
and get the good answer. And just I'll leave you with the
If you want, we'll start off with Justin first.
Oh, that's no fun.
All right, Chris, we'll start off
We'll
with
just
you.
see how it flies.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll start off. We'll ask you guys, favorite comedian.
Favorite comedian at the moment. My favorite comedian is Bill Burr.
Bill Burr.
Probably myself. I had a good gig last night.
You did have a good gig last night, but it can turn quick, as you know. Yeah, you never get too far ahead of yourself in this industry.
All right, yourself. All right, favorite joke that you guys did.
Favourite joke that we did?
My favourite joke was a joke that we did on Australia's Got Talent. Great to be here. I'm so excited. I'm beside myself.
Yeah, it's a ripper.
That's a classic.
And it's one that people remember so much. My favourite joke is extremely rude, and I can't repeat it here. So I just do a few dad jokes for my son every now and then, and I say... One I told him the other day is, what do you call a dinosaur that sits on a cactus? Megasaurus. At 8 years old. Bang. Loved it. Job done. Yeah. And then he'll say, oh, Dad, but what about some of the jokes you do on stage? Oh, no, mate. No. We might just wait till you get a little bit older.
Muzz, you could use that joke to your daughter too.
Yeah, that's absolutely useful. Very useful.
Most famous person you guys performed in front of?
Simon Cowell.
Most famous person we performed in front of. People always ask that question. I think in general they ask, who's the most famous person you've ever met? And I always say, living out in Walbunderie, middle of nowhere, right? And nothing to do with comedy. This is long before we're teenagers.
Sorry, were these quick fire questions?
Take your time. Yeah. We love it. More content.
And the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Tim Fischer, used to live about an hour and a half down the road on a property. So we'd be coming home from high school, and every now and then he'd be at the local Walbunderie shop filling up his car with petrol. At the time, you probably don't think much of it, but it's like, wow, the Deputy Prime Minister's there just filling up his car with petrol. Yeah. So in terms of famous people, Tim Fischer, Deputy Prime Minister, never met the Prime Minister. We've had a few.
Well, you never met Tim Fischer, right?
No.
You just saw him filling up.
I did, yeah. But I mean, I'm sure he knew I was there.
No, of course.
Yeah, that's the same petrol bowser that our dad used to fill up the car with petrol while the car was running and he was having a cigarette.
Oh,
Yeah, that's just what you did in the 90s. Yeah.
What do you hate about each other?
What do we hate about each other? Oh, you're messy. I kind of feel like it's nice to have a clean house. And if you can't make your bed and have a clean bench to cut your veggies and I can see you're upset about it.
No,
But,
well, no, for me,
slovenly is
for me, it's your face. We're in separate cars when we leave. We didn't come in the same car. Yeah.
But you are messy though. I just wish you'd tidy up a bit more. Just be a little more tidy.
I've got more kids than you, mate. It's harder.
Give us your favorite superheroes.
Favorite superhero? I'm a Spider-Man man.
Spider-Man,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, I'm a Batman man.
I'm your Batman, man.
Yeah,
You're a Batman,
Christian
man.
Bale. The Batman that Christian Bale in was
Yeah, it was
great.
Dark Knight, yeah, really good.
Can't beat it.
Yeah.
Your deepest fear.
Deepest fear. I'm not great with heights. But again, I have that philosophy where I like to challenge myself. We did some TV ads years ago where we had to jump off a 10-meter platform, and that was quite daunting for me. But we've also abseiled as well. So I've done a lot of those ropes games, and I just like to challenge myself, even though I know I'm scared of it. But you got to take it on.
Deepest fear. I still get nervous before I do stand up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be your deepest fear.
How would you know?
Oh, well, I suppose that'd explain why you battle a lot of the time out there.
If you could have dinner with anyone, famous, past, present, who would it be?
I'm into my sport. Love my sport. I'll give you a chance to think about it. Sorry, I waited there. I thought maybe you'd have something, but I watched The Last Dance, Michael Jordan. Love to sit down with Michael Jordan and just see what the bloke was all about. Yeah.
For me, it'd be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Definitely. Yeah, absolutely love him. I've got a real keen interest in fitness, and I just think he's amazing.
Well, he was on the roids, so...
Vegan roids. Vegan roids.
Most famous person on your contact list on your phone?
Most famous person on the contact list. Oh,
Justin, yourself again.
That's an interesting one. I would probably say...
Are we talking sport or are we talking comedy?
Most famous.
So how do you answer this one without big noting yourself?
Yeah, that's right. Most famous
It's a tough
person.
one. It's always nice when you have a bit of banter with someone who you admire. That's always good.
Yeah, I would say Jason Ackermanis.
Okay.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Brisbane Lions.
He's a very outspoken sort of a character, but
Yeah. Well, Brownlow medalist, and we love our sport.
Yeah.
It's always great to run into Acker and have a chat.
Yeah.
God, how do you answer this one without big noting yourself?
Chris Anstey
Like basketball.
Basketball.
Yeah, played at the Chicago Bulls.
Mm.
Yeah. He's a great fella.
Yeah,
Hey,
really
should
great.
get him on the podcast.
You guys should get him on.
Yeah.
He's got a great philosophy on life and business, hasn't he?
We do a lot of work with his brother, Richard.
Ah,
He's at
okay,
Metro
yeah.
Financial. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work with
Yeah.
him. Really tall fellas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you definitely got to get Chris on. He'd
Yeah.
love to come in and chat to you guys, I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solid. Chris, you didn't give me a name.
Most famous person on the list.
I do most of the phone calls for Nelson Twins comedy.
Yeah.
So
Anyone famous that we're working with, Justin always makes the call. Yeah. And actually, did we bring our drink coolers, which we've got one each for you guys?
Oh,
and
yeah.
speaking of famous phone numbers, Justin's number is on there.
there we go.
Oh, right.
So if
Thank you,
you
Justin.
let's say you're out and about and you get home at 3 a.m,
Oh, yeah? Give him a call.
He loves getting a call. He loves getting a call. Yeah,
I appreciate
In
that.
fact,
Thank
he'd
you.
prefer it. Yeah, yeah, and give that number out to anyone that you want. So, hey, give this guy a call if you're looking to book. He likes to take calls between 3 and 5 a.m.
Now this is the last question I like to end the podcast with. What advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Justin, You're a philosopher.
Yeah.
You're more of a philosopher.
Don't embark on a stand-up comedy career with your identical twin brother.
It's funny. That's an interesting question where a lot of people say, "Oh, I wouldn't change a thing," but I reckon you could always change something.
Yeah.
I'd work harder. I'd work harder. I would have worked harder aside from comedy on my fitness. I like keeping fit now. I've worked hard on that the last 3 years. I would have liked to have been super fit back 20 years ago when I was playing sport, because I would have liked to have got a bit more out of it. Yeah.
Maybe you could have only slept 12 hours a day instead of 16.
Justin, what do you got?
Didn't I answer it?
Did you answer it?
I think I did.
What'd you say?
No, you didn't answer that one.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, what would you change if you were 18?
You'd stop doing it. Yeah, you wouldn't do comedy.
I would have legged it and left you for dead.
Yeah.
I thought like that was serious.
No, nothing's too serious. You wouldn't change it. You wouldn't change it.
Yeah, you guys gave us a gift. I got a gift for both of you.
Oh, thank you.
I don't think you guys will ever wear it, but it's our Islam Hits the A6 t-shirt.
Oh, mate.
Like I mentioned, there's only 23 of these, right?
Fantastic.
And we thought, because you guys love twinning.
Oh,
There
thank
might
you,
be an
mate.
occasion where you guys might perform in front of Muslims.
Well, yeah.
Just don't know what will happen.
Yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely. We'll give this a plug. And so some of the shirts and different bits of things that we've got from over the years, my wife often wears them as like a pajamas. Yeah. So in the very least, it will go to good use.
Very good use.
Yeah.
Overused.
I know it's weird. It's weird, but years ago, we printed up some Nelson Twins shirts, and my wife still wears one of those sometimes. It's weird hopping into bed with your wife and going, you're a fan. Yeah. So it will definitely go to good use, and we'll give it a plug on the socials too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Hey, boys, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
so
you
much.
coming in. Thank you very much. Thanks
Yeah,
for coming.
really enjoyed
honor.
it.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys again.
Likewise.
And you guys haven't changed one bit, man. Since my school days, you guys look the same. Just a couple of white hairs.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, absolute pleasure.
It's almost like you guys ran the podcast. You made our lives.
Thanks for
easier.
being our
It was
guest.
great being in the audience.
Appreciate
It was awesome.
You guys
Had
are
a great
co-hosts
laugh.
sometimes. You just don't know.
Yeah.
But other than that, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
It's been an
Thank you.
absolute pleasure. Oh, it's very
Well,
fun,
thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. It was
Yeah.
solid. Oh, well, you should get some good ha-has out of that.
Yeah, that was hilarious. It was really good.
I stumbled a couple of times.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. That's probably one thing we didn't talk about too with the public speaking stuff. It's us we're always trying to get better and be better as well. That's some of the reason why we run the program, so that we can keep
Honing the skills.
Yeah.